Hello, viewers. Today is Friday, October 4th, 2024. I'm here to share my thoughts and opinions on the US presidential elections 2024. Yesterday, we discussed about why Kamala Harris is not able to close the deal. Now, today, I would like to look at the same for Donald Trump. Why he is not able to close the deal either, because the race is too close to call on all those battleground states. So let's look at Donald Trump prior to Kamala Harris picking up the nominations after Biden withdrew from the race. So before Biden withdrew from the race, Trump was actually winning by a significant margin, even in the national popular vote, as well as a healthy margin in all the battleground states. But as soon as Kamala Harris entered the fray, after Biden withdrew from the race, it has been a tough 2 months for Donald Trump, and he's not able to actually close the deal, even though he had some inherent advantages coming into this 2024 election. By inherent advantages, what I mean is he had the issue of inflation on his side. People are not happy because of the higher prices in terms of food, groceries, and gas prices as well. And so he had a good story to tell, saying that during his tenure, people had lower prices and they were able to afford. But then after Kamala Harris came into the race, slowly the narrative got changed a little bit, in the sense that she got good press coverage. She had a good momentum for the first 2-3 weeks, and then she had the convention. And so she was slowly able to chip away at the lead that Donald Trump had. But nevertheless, the reason why Trump is not able to really keep his coalition together or his support together is due to the fact that those independents and the Republican-leaning independents who were likely to vote for Donald Trump if the race was between Donald Trump versus Joe Biden, they have moved to the Kamala Harris' side. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Those voters felt like both Biden and Donald Trump were very bad choices to begin with, but they felt like Biden is very old, and they felt that he could not sustain another 4 years of the rigors of the presidency. So they were willing to vote for Donald Trump. But when they saw an younger Kamala Harris get the nomination, they all moved back. So that's one reason. And then the second reason is about how Donald Trump handled this campaign after Kamala Harris took over. He couldn't actually campaign on a single theme. He couldn't paint her successfully as a California liberal. He tried, but he pivoted and started calling her names, and he was trying to run a very negative campaign against her, and that did not go well with some of the independents. And so they basically came back to Kamala Harris. So in effect, Donald Trump was not able to keep his coalition, and he was also not able to expand his base. He was going towards the base. For instance, he doubled down on that story about the Haitian immigrants in Springfield, Ohio. He is feeling that by raking up that issue, he is going to get more votes in the rural areas, old white voters, and also voters without a college degree. He's thinking that there is more votes there that he can tap into. He still feels that he can overperform the 2020 numbers by overperforming in those rural areas. But by doing that, he is actually losing votes in the suburbs. By suburbs, what I mean is not just in some of the big states, but also in states like Wisconsin, in states like Michigan, the suburbs of Detroit. He is losing them, and and the suburbs of Milwaukee and other areas as well. So that's the reason he is not able to expand his base significantly, but he is still going to the base. So I don't think that that's a winning formula, but nevertheless is doing better in the sense that he's able to keep the race very close. Nobody is going to know exactly what is the voter composition in this 2024 election. Some of the pollsters have come out and said that they will not make the mistake that they made in 2016 and 2020. They are saying that they have accommodated that silent Trump voter, and they have accommodated them in their model, and they are saying that the polls are going to be more or less accurate this time. But let's see. I'm not too sure about that. It's very difficult to predict who is going to turn out. But even if Trump wants to increase the vote tally from his base, I personally feel it's not going to be sufficient to win a state like Pennsylvania or Georgia or North Carolina. He needs to get enough independents. At least he needs to outperform his independence numbers by 1 or 2 points to win Georgia, to win Arizona, to win Pennsylvania. And Arizona might be the easiest for him because I think he's overperforming there against independents. But in Pennsylvania, I'm not too sure. In Michigan, I'm not too sure. And Georgia as well, I'm not too sure. So given those facts on the ground, I think he is in a tough spot. Electoral college traditionally helps the Republicans, but in this case, I believe it is slightly in favor of Kamala Harris. And the reason I'm saying that is if she has to win Pennsylvania and Michigan, I've been repeating that if she wins Pennsylvania and Michigan and one of Georgia or North Carolina, she's going to be President Harris. So the Electoral College, even though inherently Democrats had a disadvantage, but in this election, I have a feeling that they are in a better position because of the suburban voters. And the only drawback for them at this point of time, I think, is the African-American male voters, which I discussed about yesterday. So given the fact that he is Donald Trump is actually taking this immigration issue to the extreme, and also he is not come to the middle on the reproductive rights issue, I think he is finding it difficult to close the deal. That's what I feel. Let's see how things pan out. So before I leave, I would like to pass on this message one more time. In-person voting has started in states like Virginia, Minnesota, and South Dakota. And in other states, at least in another 7 or 8 states, postal ballots have been mailed out. So I want every one of you to vote. As I mentioned before, people have fought for this right. African Americans and women did not get the right to vote. In fact, most of the people started voting only after the 1965 Voting Rights Act in terms of the African Americans, because there was a lot of discrimination. There was literacy law to find out whether you are literate before you can vote, and those kind of things. Even after the 15th Amendment was passed and the 19th Amendment was passed, the 15th Amendment was passed to allow African Americans to vote, and the 19th Amendment was passed to allow women to vote. But even with all that, there were a lot of tests in the southern states where they tested your literacy skills before you are allowed to vote. So only the 1965 Voting Rights Act gave the right for most of these people to vote. So people have fought for this right. Some of them have died for this right. So I don't want you guys to lose your right to vote. You just go and exercise your franchise. It doesn't matter whom you vote for. Just go ahead and vote. If you don't like any one of these candidates, you can write in your name or write in anyone that you think will do a better job than these candidates. It's very important. And for those who are getting paper ballots, mail-in ballots, make sure that you sign and you date as well. There are several states who have said now that if you do not date or if the date is wrong, they are not going to count your votes. So please make sure if you are doing a mail-in ballot, sign and put in the appropriate date and make sure that the date is the correct date. The date is actually the signature date, not your date of birth or anything like that. So please make sure that you sign and put in the appropriate signed date on that column. So that's it for me today. I'll come back to you with a different episode tomorrow. Till then, take care.